Okay, so welcome everyone. Let me get my presentation set up better. Okay, so welcome everyone to this virtual community meeting to discuss NPA 2025-0012.01. As I mentioned earlier, this is being recorded and will be posted to the Neighborhood Plan Amendment Cases public input website tomorrow morning. If you could go ahead and type your name into the chat box, and if you're associated with an organization, include that as well. We'll kind of use this as the informal sign-in sheet. As you know, this is in the Upper Boggy Creek Neighborhood Planning Area. Mark Walters will be the meeting facilitator tonight. My name is Maureen Meredith. I am the Plan Amendment Case Manager. Jonathan Tomko is the Zoning Case Manager. He won't be here at the meeting tonight, but this is our contact information. The agenda tonight, I'll go over basic case information, guidelines for group discussion, how to participate in this process, why is there a plan amendment application, what is a future land use map. After my presentation, Drew Raphael, the applicant's agent, will do a presentation. Then we will go into the Q&A session of the meeting. Property addresses are 2108 and 2110 East 22nd Street. It's 0.515 acres. Again, the plan amendment case number is NPA 2025-0012.01. Project name is the addresses 2108 and 2110 East 22nd Street. The request is to change the future land use map from single family to neighborhood commercial land use. It has an associated zoning case, which is C14 2025-0092. That zoning request is to change the zoning on the property from SF3NP, which is Family Residence District Neighborhood Plan, to LRCONP for Neighborhood Commercial District, Conditional Overlay Combining District Neighborhood Plan for a restaurant and administrative office. Property owner applicant is 2110 East 22nd Street, LLC. The agent is Drew Raphael from Drenner Group. Guidelines or group discussion. You can type your questions into the chat at any time during the meeting. After the presentations, you can click the hand symbol on the menu bar if you wanted to speak. If we have telephone participants, which we have one, we'll call out the last 4 digits of your phone number when we get to the Q&A. You'll be able to ask any questions or make any comments at that time. Attendees will be muted upon arrival and through the presentations. And again, we will open the floor for Q&A after the presentation. Similar questions may be grouped and answered together, and we ask that you be respectful to each other during this discussion. As I mentioned, the meeting is being recorded. It will be posted to this website. This is the same website link where you would have found the Microsoft Teams meeting link. You can call or email me or Jonathan with any questions or comments that you have. If you provide us written comments, we'll include them in the staff case reports when the cases are scheduled for Planning Commission and City Council. When they are scheduled, if you live within 500 feet of the property, you'll get that notice in the mail, and it will have the date, time, and location of the meetings and also instructions on how to participate in the public hearings in person and virtually. So why are there neighborhood plan amendments? So neighborhood plans are adopted by City Council as amendments to the Imagine Austin Comprehensive Plan, and City Charter requires zoning changes to be consistent with the Comprehensive Plan. Most neighborhood plan amendments are changes to a future land use map, and most have a zoning, an associated zoning application. So this map shows the areas in blue that have City Council approved neighborhood plans, all of which have a plan document that have the vision and goals of the planning area, and most of which also have a future land use map where these colors represent broad land uses. For example, on this property, it is currently single family, it's shown in yellow, and the proposed land use is neighborhood commercial, and it would be shown as red with white dots. This is a zoomed in part of previous map. You can see it's 2 lots and the yellow is single family land use. This is the future land use map with the aerial photo underneath. Again, is yellow for single family. This is a zoning map that shows the property is currently zoned SF3. This is just a Google screenshot of the property when some of the surrounding uses. This is a Google screenshot of the street view of the property. This is the Imagine Austin growth concept map, where these colors represent regional centers, town centers, neighborhood centers, and also activity corridors. So you can see the property with the blue star. You can see it is not too far from the downtown regional center, shown as orange on the left side of the screen, and not too far from the MLK Station Neighborhood Center is there on the right, and it's sort of right in between those two centers. The brown lines to the north and south, those are activity centers. Those are activity corridors on those roadways. This map shows the public transportation in proximity to the property. And that ends my presentation, and I will stop sharing my screen and Drew can share his.
Thank you, Maureen. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm Drew Raffel with Drenner Group here on behalf of the property owner of 2108 and 2110 East 22nd Street. I also have with me on here Tori Kuntz, who's in my office and assisting me with this. I know I've met with several of you, so I'll try to keep it brief. We're here at the northwest corner of the East 22nd Street in Coletto, just south of Manor, just to kind of orient everybody. The property is made up of two tracts or two parcels. One which has existed as a garden of sorts for several years, many decades actually, and then the other parcel being garden support area, storage, and compacted gravel that is used for overflow parking. We are requesting to rezone the property from SF3 to LRCONP. That's neighborhood commercial with a conditional overlay. That conditional overlay came from looking at those properties to the north of us that also were commercial and had conditional overlays, and seeing what uses were prohibited and or conditional within those COs, and then what applied to LR. And so we made our request, including those uses that are prohibited and conditional with this zoning request. And I'll get into that a little bit more. I also want to point out that our LR zoning is also similar in the extent to which we're requesting it for other sites that are along East 22nd Street. And with it also, we have to have a neighborhood plan amendment for the designation from single family, and we've chosen to go with neighborhood commercial, seeing as how that fits the LR request. The property, as she mentioned, as Maureen mentioned, is just over half an acre. It's a really great property as far as infrastructure and transit and accessibility goes. There's great sidewalks and connectivity in this area, bike lanes, bus options, and we're located on an Imagine Austin corridor as well as a future core transit corridor. So the reason that we're here having a neighborhood planning amendment meeting is because of our zoning request for our proposed project for a small restaurant. And that restaurant would focus mostly on morning service and lunch. We're talking small neighborhood scale, 2,800 square feet with a 500 square foot patio. The garden is very central to the development of this property. It's been central and a part of the community for many years, and we want to preserve that and keep it as a part of the new development. And so the restaurant and the proposed office space would actually wrap the garden, which would be kept on the hard corner, and that would make the garden about more or less 4,000 square feet. And then you would have about 3,500 square feet of office space that would be on a second story. We're talking about 30 feet in height, 2 stories, so very neighborhood in scale. Our hours of operations, I know this was something that I got asked at the neighborhood meeting with the Blackland folks, that some are here in attendance, and we are looking at hours between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. Since we're mostly focused on breakfast and lunch, these are offset by the restaurant to the north, Este, which focuses on dinner and then on the weekends has a lunch service. So I mentioned that conditional overlay, and here are those prohibited uses and conditional uses as a part of our request. After meeting with the Blackland neighborhood, we have let them know that we would be open to paring down our conditional overlay to just the restaurant, office, and creative uses within LR and prohibiting or making conditional others. And so we're continuing that conversation with them. And then also, it's important to note that with a restaurant general use in LR, there are certain conditions under the city code that apply to that use specifically, limiting the size of the building, the hours of operations, outdoor entertainment, drive-through facilities, and not being a bar, and live entertainment. And then here are some Upper Boggy Creek neighborhood and Imagine Austin goals that we feel like our request fits with. And the first is a land use goal from the neighborhood, just ensuring that new businesses and commercial development within the neighborhood are neighborhood appropriate, neighborhood scale, and neighborhood friendly, and serves nearby neighborhood restaurants. The concept that we've talked about with the restaurant, with the neighborhood about the restaurant, is that it is very small scale in nature, would be serving like coffee and pastries. And so it'd be very, sort of complementary to what is along Manor Road now. And in the area, parks, open space, and environment, objective 5.4 from the neighborhood says that open spaces that are currently in a naturalistic state should be preserved to the greatest extent as possible. And while this isn't a naturalistic state, the garden is very central to this redevelopment. So we felt like the environment aspect of this really fit. And then the broader goals from the land use and transportation and Imagine Austin is ensuring neighborhoods of modest means have a mix of local serving retail employment opportunities and residential uses. And having the restaurant there, they employ, I think, over 50 employees right now. And so that would provide more employment opportunities as well as mixing uses nearby to residences. And then the last one being encouraging infill opportunities that put residential work, retail land uses in proximity to each other, maximizing walking, bicycling, and transit opportunities. And so, like I mentioned, this is a really great location in a rich neighborhood that has a lot of activity along East 22nd and Manor Road. There's great connectivity, biking, walking. I'll just wrap it up right here. And we are still in the neighborhood outreach and staff review. We haven't been scheduled for commission or council. So we're still in the middle of the process. And then I'll wrap up and open it up to questions and just put my information here. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, they can.
Well, thank you, Drew. I'm Mark Walters. I'll be facilitating this evening's discussion. So no time like the present to jump in. If anybody has any questions of Drew or the staff who's here, please raise your hand or put the question in the chat.
And I'm on the phone. Do I just let you know?
Yes, ma'am. Well, since you just mentioned you're on the phone, why don't you ask your question, ma'am?
Okay, I've got several, but I'll start with this. I was at the meeting many years ago when the owner heard the concerns from neighbors about the limited parking for Esty. And the owner's response was that he was going to develop an off-site parking, which never occurred. So parking is a major problem in front of my home. I live at 2207 East 22nd Street. In addition, Manor Road is so congested, cars use East 22nd Street as a cut-through. My question is, what has the applicant done to examine the potential impact of traffic and parking from early in the morning throughout the day into the evening related to the proposed changes?
I appreciate that question. Yeah. Parking is a concern that I know the neighborhood folks brought up, I believe yourself included. And so something that we looked at is that the concept being a breakfast and lunch has offset hours from the current restaurant that has dinner service, with the exception of some overlap on the weekends whenever Este is open for lunch. Currently, the parking on the property that we're rezoning has about 20 undefined spaces. And whenever the owner of Este came in and developed that as a restaurant, as a part of mitigating the parking concerns, they provide valet for free to all of their customers. And so the valet parks that lot in the evenings, and what they can get in there is about 25 cars. And so between the their site and our site, that's about 50 to 55 cars. So with this proposal, because we would be paving and striping the parking that's there today, we'd be able to get in a few more spaces, 28 defined spaces versus the 20 today. And whenever we close off the parking lot on the weekends, or I'm not sorry, on the weekends, but in the evenings, and valet is operating, you're able to get up to 35 cars on that lot. And so between the two sites, that would increase the parking capacity to 58 to 65 spaces or vehicles parked. And again, those hours are mostly offset with the exception of some overlap for lunch service between the two.
And your other question, ma'am?
Yes. No traffic impact analysis was performed because it was not required by the city. How many other development applications have been submitted for the Manor Road area in the last 3 years? How many did not require an analysis by the city? What transportation, traffic, and parking analysis has been performed by these other developments? And what has the applicant done to examine the potential impact of traffic and parking related to the proposed changes?
From
Mark,
the
do you,
city's perspective, I don't know the number of site plans that were, or zoning cases that were filed with the city, and what those parking mitigation or requirements were, or any studies associated with that.
yeah, and since we're still at zoning right now, we have not done any transportation impact analysis. We'll have to look at that with staff whenever we submit a site plan for our proposed office and restaurant development.
Okay. And
Do you
I
have another
one
question,
more?
ma'am?
I
Yes, ma'am.
I
No,
sure do.
It's just go.
I'm sorry.
Then we'll go
I
to the
hope I'm
people
not
who have their
taking up
hands raised.
anybody else's time. Uh, so why does the applicant feel that there is a necessity for commercial and office use in the proposed area outside of the Manor Road corridor into the neighborhood? Why is that? That's the issue for me, is that it's in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, as you can see on the zoning map that we had up earlier, I don't know, Mark, if you can thumb to
Well,
that.
she's on the phone, so she can't very well see it.
Oh, that's correct. Sorry. There are properties along East 22nd Street that do have commercial zoning. I know by name reference the Vortex to the east of us. So we feel like this is a very consistent request with what is along Manor and East 22nd Street. And we also feel like because we are keeping the garden as a part of this and we do intend to keep the parking, we're just adding in some office and some restaurant space, that this is very neighborhood scale. And so we're not asking for a higher commercial category than LR. LR is actually the lowest intensity commercial base district that we could request.
Okay, and this is my last question. When the owner purchased the property, what was the zoning and the future land use map designation? And then are they claiming they were not aware of the restrictions under those designations? I understand we're in Upper Boggy Creek neighborhood planning area, but Blackland also has a planning area. So sometimes it seems like those are in conflict. Did you get my last question?
Yeah, if I understand it correctly, so the property has been SF3, I mean, for a while. Like I think it's been that always. So I think whenever they purchased it, I would assume that they've been fully aware of the zoning. It's long been, to my understanding, when this was Eastside Cafe and other iterations before that, associated with the property along Manor Road and the commercial property along Manor Road. And then I believe, yes, the Upper Boggy Creek neighborhood plan does have subsections relating to Blackland. Is that Is that what you're referring to?
Correct. Uh-huh.
Mhm. And yeah, we were looking at that plan when we were looking for at those goals.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for right now.
Next up would be, excuse me, Marva Overton, if you would unmute and ask your question or make your comment.
Yes, yes. Hello, Drew. I thought I heard you say it in the presentation, and then I think you just repeated it. So I wanted to know, and you mentioned the vortex, but the vortex does not face 22nd. And you said that there were this was compatible with other structures along 22nd. 22nd is residential. So I'm still not clear on where you're saying that would be compatible to businesses on 22nd, because the vortex is actually on the other side of Chestnut, and then there's an alley there, and it's back from the street a bit, but it doesn't face 22nd. So that's my question.
Yeah, so Mark, sorry, I just took over sharing so I could show my zoning map here. So let me just zoom in here. When you look along East 22nd Street, there are other properties to the west that are zoned MF2, so they're not all at SF3. And then there's properties to the east that have LO MU designation or CS1 MUV designation. And so that's where I was saying that our request is really consistent with the extent to which we're requesting this as compared to those other properties along East 22nd Street.
Okay, next up would be Rich Merritt, if you would unmute Rich and ask your question or make your comment.
Good evening. So the Brenner Group. The Brenner Group is, as far as for the East Austin corridor, Estee Garden, and the proposed future hotel, where currently the condemned hotel lies near Bird Biscuit, correct? Are there any other lots that are currently Brenner Group affiliated or owned investments or future properties to be for us to understand the cohesion of how the Brenner Group is designing East Austin?
So we're not developers. Drenner Group is, we're land use consultants and agents. We are helping the property owner of the Estee Garden with their rezoning.
Okay,
So-
so then does the property owner own the condemned hotel next to Bird Biscuit and any other properties besides Estee and Estee Garden?
I am not aware of what properties they own. I know they own this one and Estee because those have been
Okay.
kind of just my purview.
Okay.
I'm not
Well,
involved in anything else
would-
that they're doing.
Okay, well, that's very convenient. But I think that my point of view would be is that there's so much congestion and so much use of the public streets by the every day being on at 2109. My front yard is your parking lot, in a manner of speaking. And I know at some level, that's the benefit of success, and all the and all that comes with. But is there any doubling up with what the other prior person's question? Is there any brainstorming or research or thoughts about private partnerships for additional parking or additional things like how both Paperboy and the tea place next to Paperboy has that little extra lot that I think is a private partnership. Is there anything like that that's been proposed, thought through for additional parking besides the Estee Garden itself?
That's a great question. We haven't, I mean, we're still early in the process. We're talking zoning. We haven't done full site design. And so what we do know from just where we are today is that, we're roughly talking about 20 to 25 parked cars on the Estee Garden site. And so formalizing that and actually paving and striping it, we're able to get 28 cars in there and increase that because those offices I was talking about, and it'd be 2 stories, the offices we kind of have like tuck under parking below them. So that's how we're kind of able to make that site more efficient and keeping parking while still adding offices. We can definitely look at other partnerships in the area where that might be available, but we're really limited between the 2 sites, which is why the focus for this concept is doing something that is breakfast and lunch. So you have offset hours so that whenever the breakfast lunch spot is open, we're able to utilize the parking on the north lot that's next to Bartoti and Este. And then in the evenings, whenever Estee is open in Bartoti, they can use the parking on the south lot. And that's the best that we've done to maximize the efficiency between those 2 at this time.
Fair enough.
There's always possibilities of other engagements in the future.
Yep. Last thing I'll say is I was quite disappointed when a large pickleball court got put in instead of some sort of mixed use garage further up the road from here. And on Manor Road, instead of additional mixed use parking to help with some of the neighborhood auto density that we have here. That because you could look at maps, you could look at photos, you could drive over there any day of the week at 22nd and Toledo, and it's gridlock every day of the week, except for the day that is Sunday or Monday when that stays closed. And you could go and look and see that any day of the week, compare any hour from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. And compare Monday night when that stays closed and the other days of the week. And it's a huge difference. And, I'm not crying or saying that we should go back or anything like that, but just that we need more infrastructure and we need more public-private partnerships to address the density so that it isn't all on that one corner. And I thank you all for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your meeting.
Thank you, Rich. Next up, who has their hand up would be Marva Overton. If you would unmute and ask your question or make your comment, please.
Okay, just a question. In terms of the parking, because as you know, that is our one of our main issue, I think. Is there any involvement with your client with the Manor Road, the other Manor Road merchants around parking? I understand that there have been some discussions around possible options for trying to alleviate the parking, and they've been talking to some of the businesses. I don't know if Estee is involved in that. If not, I would highly suggest that that there's participation because that might lead to some solutions around parking. And then I guess my question, and one of the points you made about how this supports the neighborhood from the one of the points in the plan. And you said there was a mix of local serving, retail, employment opportunities. for neighborhoods. So do you all actually have any data on how the actual neighbors have been impacted either through employment opportunities or even, customer base? I know a lot of the customers drive here, hence the parking issue. So what has really been the community benefit for the residents who have been here for a long time?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And I mean to answer it, when we look at the neighborhood plans, and these are like goals and guidelines on how to integrate uses with each other, a lot of times it's a principle to have walkable, accessible uses next to each other. Community retail, neighborhood retail serving, being in proximity to transit as well as residential areas so that folks don't need a car to go to those places. And I know Maiden Road is one of is a very active place. There's no doubt how popular the Manor Road corridor has been for businesses alike. And so this is just another mix of uses to the neighborhood that are make it more accessible for restaurants and whatnot. We do our best to look at the parking to make it, like I said, as most efficient on site as we can. But I mean, the alternative, as I know that we discussed in the neighborhood meeting, is if we provide more parking, something's got to give, and that may come at the sacrifice of either what we set out to do, which was to make a restaurant, or the garden. And so what we've tried to do is to make it as efficient and maximize as best as possible while preserving the garden area on the property for the future development. And so to answer your question, I mean, if we were to increase the parking, then I mean, we would lose the garden, which would be losing an asset or a benefit that, I mean, we've seen from our perspective as that we're preserving as a part of this proposal.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, so just one thing to that point, though, that unless you have some kind of data, you don't really know how you really benefited the neighborhood. You don't, unless you somehow know, are there local people in the neighborhood coming to the garden? Do you have a lot of people from the neighborhood actually coming to the restaurant? Have you actually employed people who live in the neighborhood? Because it's fine to say that it exists as an entity where people because it's close, people can access it, but closeness geographically does not always mean accessibility. And so I would just ask that you all, really think about and be upfront in terms of how much is really benefiting the existing neighborhood. And some of that you may not know until maybe just going forward. It's like, okay, how many people, have we advertised for jobs within this neighborhood? Do we somehow know how many people from the neighborhood? Do the people in the neighborhood know that they have access to come to the garden, or do they think, oh, that's Este's garden, I can't even go there? So that's my point. I'll stop there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have a really great point, and you're right. I can't, being in the context of just talking about zoning and land use, I can't answer all of those questions related to the business operation side of things. But, knowing the owner and what we talked about at the neighborhood meeting, I think I mean, I'll definitely talk to him and get more information about that. But I think we're here and we're working with you guys to create that connection and to talk about those benefits. And we're open to any suggestions that you guys have on those fronts so that we can be facilitating as many benefits as we can and being a good neighbor. And so I want to iterate that to make that point. So I hope to continue those conversations with you guys and also the owner as well.
Thank you, Drew. Next up is Catherine Tuchik. I hope I got that right.
Yes. Hi, Drew.
Hi.
So I agree with Marva in regards to particularly the people I see that are employed there are parking all along the street here. They're driving from somewhere else. I see lots of them because I live on the corner across the street from the garden. And I don't see people walking to work unless they're coming on the bus, which there very well may be people walking to work, taking the bus to work. But I see masses of restaurant traffic that are not only customers, but that, yes, are also employees. So there is no offloading of employees. In fact, if the hours really were 7 to 3, that means people would be there earlier, correct? There'll be maybe not the wait staff, but there'll be people prepping earlier.
Yeah.
Which means as early, restaurants, people get there plenty or early. So we're talking about maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours prior to the opening, as well as lots more cars, lots more doors. I mean, I already, see restaurant employees from Estee outside my house really late. I guess they lock up like after 1 o'clock. And with the lights on and the radio on and that kind of a thing. So I do feel the traffic issues. And I also think it's important for us to say there are no offices on East 22nd. There isn't anything that fronts East 22nd. And when you pulled up the map earlier and you showed that MF4, there's an MF2 down the street, that's an affordable housing multifamily unit, which is quite different than an office space. So it's one thing in my mind to have another additional restaurant that's closer up to, we hope that is. We've seen no plans, no drawings, nothing. So all we have is, hey, here's a sketch of what we think we might want to do, but a request to go ahead and, obviously you guys have all the rights in the world to help try and change the zoning. But we're still back at that point where we don't have offices on East 22nd that I am aware of at all. Are you aware of some? Are you aware of anything
So
besides
the context of context of that, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Just, you mentioned the vortex, but in relation to,
sorry.
Yeah, to actually
Yeah.
East 22nd and either offices or something other than the vortex.
Yeah, we're talking about the zoning LR and that this zoning request is to the comparable extent of other properties along East 22nd Street that are zoned other things than SF3. So that is the purpose of that comment, is that like this is not necessarily like a spot zoning. This is something that there are other properties nearby that have higher intensity zoning base districts than what we're requesting. That's all that I was pointing out, not trying to say that, like there's offices all along here.
Right, but this would be an office, and it would, as we discussed before, and so I want to say it since we're talking with zoning also and in this meeting, that it is something that now stretches into the neighborhood that is not present.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hear that. And so that's why we've looked at trying to make the parking as most efficient as we can while preserving the garden and integrating the things around the elements that are there today with our request. So,
right, but it's still, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
It's still an office. It's still offices, which is something totally different than restaurant or garden or multifamily or any of those. It's offices.
Yeah, that we need that base district in order to build the proposed development.
Okay, help me understand why you need that base to build the additional restaurant portion. Or is it
LR
the
allows the restaurant use.
But you can't, there's nothing else that allows restaurant use? No other zoning?
No, LR allows the restaurant use by right. And then because it is the commercial base district, the lowest intensity, it does have those items in city code that restricts it. So it's like restaurant general use with conditions. And that's where we also put in our conditional overlay. And when we came to talk to you guys, because we know, a lot of times when I come to talk to y'all or other folks, we don't always have the project completely nailed down. And so you can't really limit yourself in your uses and whatnot. But we are happy to talk with y'all about further limiting our conditional overlay, so that we just have the restaurant, office, and creative uses allowed in LR, and everything else is, prohibited. We maintain open to that, and any other concerns and stuff that you want us to consider.
And that's before you present that to the city with the request?
I mean, we're in review right now, and we're waiting for a recommendation from staff. And so, I mean, once we have our recommendation to staff, we do want to move forward to Planning Commission and Council. And I've made it very clear that we're happy to come back to your November meeting and discuss with you guys things further if there are things for us to consider. But our goal is to move forward, with your recommendation. We want your support in doing so, because that's why we came early on, to present this and talk to you guys about it, because we do know that there is an LR, to the east and to the west of us. And so we wanted to bring this to you, show you that we were thoughtfully planning to do this with neighborhood scale and preserve the garden and the parking, so that we can kind of mitigate some of those concerns that we knew were already existing, and talk through other items that may be of concern or that we can consider as a part of this request.
Thanks.
Okay, so
This is Ori
Daniel.
Susan again. I have one more thing that I'd like to suggest.
Yes.
Okay. I would like to suggest a traffic study on East 22nd Street and Coletto. It's no way that we can, who live on these streets, explain how much traffic goes through here. And so I think that would help to figure out what something else could be done, because the traffic is horrendous. And when the people are backed up on MLK, on Manor Road, then they cut through, and that makes it even worse. So if you all could do a traffic study in the morning, noon, and evening, then I think that would help figure out where all the cars are coming from and how fast they're going. And they have stop signs, and they don't pay attention to them either. So I just don't think you all understand how much traffic comes through and how much parking there is on East 22nd Street. If I were to invite you all over to my house to have a drink, there would be no place for you to park, because all of the parking is coming from the restaurant.
We'll take a look at that.
Okay. Next up is Daniel. If you would unmute and ask your question or make your comment, please.
Yes, if it's true that the owners of Estee own the motel property on Manor, my suggestion would be that the offices would seem to be better put over there, since that's already zoned for that type of thing. And then maybe just put the cafe on the Estee property. That's just a suggestion.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to them about that. I'm not aware that they own that site.
Okay.
Well, if nobody else has their hands up, but I'm going to go. I have a list of people who were in attendance, and I'm going to go down the list, and ask people who haven't asked a question or made a comment if they would like to do so at this time. And the first person on my list who hasn't asked a question, made a comment this evening is David Allen. David, you'd like to make a question or make a comment or ask a question? Okay.
I'm good right now. Thank you.
Okay.
I agree with all the parking though.
Okay. Thank you for that. So does anybody else have any comments or questions that we haven't touched on this evening? I know there's a comment in the chat about asking for some type of traffic study, and I think that's just kind of restating what Ms. Houston just asked for. So with that, if there's no more, Maureen, do you want to put up your contact information and discuss about what the next steps in the process are going to be?
Yeah, I needed to put my microphone on. Let me see. Let me get my PowerPoint back up. Okay. So here is, again, my contact information and Jonathan Tomko's contact information. My team will meet to discuss this plan amendment case. I'll report back to them the questions and concerns from this meeting. We will make our recommendation and pass that on to the zoning planners. They will meet and they will make a recommendation on the proposed zoning change. When the cases are scheduled for planning commission, I'll reach out to the Upper Boggy Creek planning contact team. And I'm not sure how many of you at this meeting are on that planning contact team, and we'll get that email. But if you're not on the planning contact team, feel free to just reach out to me, get my email down, and so you can keep track of the status of the cases and when they might be scheduled for planning commission, at which point I'll reach out to the planning contact team and ask them if they want to submit a letter of recommendation. You can submit a letter of recommendation even if you're not on the planning contact team. Just get my email and you can send that to me at any time. When the cases are scheduled, if you live within 500 feet, you will get that notice in the mail. But right now the cases have not been scheduled.
Thank you, Maureen. So Drew, no one seems to have any questions that raise their hand, except for me by accident. So Drew, do you have any final statements, anything, final comments you'd like to make this evening before we wrap up and get back to our regularly scheduled live?
Yeah, just thank you everybody for your time and showing up and your questions this evening, and I'll be in touch with y'all.
So before we sign off, everybody, we make sure everybody feels they had an opportunity to ask their questions or make their comments. If not, we can end the meeting a little bit early. We can get back to whatever we're going to do after this, probably have dinner. So.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
And
Well,
Ms.
thank you,
Meredith,
everybody.
I see your email address at the bottom, so I'll use that.
I can put the screen back up if you needed to.
But she's on the phone.
I'm on the phone.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, never mind.
Unless she has a Jetson's phone, it's not going to work.
Okay. Sorry, I forgot
So.
she was on the phone. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, with that, everybody, thank you for taking some time out of your busy lives and schedules to find out a little more about this case. And with that, I'd like to wish you a good evening.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.